Ellen, thank you. A months-long effort to determine whether two museums in Green Bay should share a home or even become one organization is over. A museum task force studying a partnership between the Neville Public Museum and the Children's Museum of Green Bay is now recommending they stop pursuing both ideas. And a First Alert update, Elise Noe joining us with where this leaves both of those museums. Elise.
Well, Cami, they started with two different needs. The Neville was looking at opportunities to better use underutilized space and build new partnerships, while the Children's Museum needed more room to expand. Now, back in June, the Greater Green Bay Community Foundation brought the different parties together to determine whether there was a realistic path forward. Now, after months of study, the focus shifts to what each museum does on its own. The review looked at programming costs, organizational structure, and whether the Children's Museum could physically fit inside the Neville. The foundation's president, Dennis Bueller, says the task force found common ground on a shared vision, but after weighing the costs and space, the group determined this particular plan didn't offer enough benefit to move forward. Bueller says the proposal also drew some public attention, with people weighing in on what the future of both museums should look like. He says that response shows how invested people are in these institutions and how strongly they want them to succeed.
This was not, I think maybe some people want to believe this was some animosity that was within this process. It wasn't. It was a really productive process. And while you have to tackle some hard truths along the way about what's possible and maybe what's not possible, progress is never a straight line.
And one immediate next step is now clear for the Neville after months of questions surrounding its permanent leadership. Brown County Executive Troy Streckenbach says he will be moving forward with the hiring of a permanent museum director. As for the Children's Museum, the task force is encouraging the museum to find a long-term home. We've reached out to both museums for comment and are still waiting to hear back. Cami.